What's greater? The spiritual worlds above, including Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, the higher level of Garden of Eden, it's a world of Bria, or this physical low world where the light of God is so contracted and so concealed that his presence is at times barely noticeable. So naturally, we feel the presence of God is in a lofty place, in a more spiritual domain. Because the physical, we're all too familiar with it on how it can be very crude, it can be very uh, uh, challenging, and therefore, to connect to God there, seemingly not the natural place to go. Welcome to Tanya Today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zurich and Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We begin the 17th letter. 17th letter speaks about the spiritual worlds, this physical world. Where is there a greater connection? Speaks about compassion, how to arouse heavenly compassion. So the 17th letter begins with a teachings from the Zohar that when a person arouses within themselves loving kindness, compassion, to help those that are in need of compassion, that creates, awakens from above, arouses from above great compassion from God, who is the source of compassion. And through the act of being compassionate and giving, then what you do is you create a fruit through your deed. That the fruits of the deed in this world and the principle, though, of what we have done remains to the world to come. World to come, meaning the times of Mashiach, actually. So let's understand this further. The fruits mean you did an act of benevolence, compassion, being charitable, giving of yourself, arousing from above the compassion from the fountainhead of life, the source of compassion. So it devolves into this world, it flows into this world, that divine energy that we've elicited from on high, something that contracts to such a physical form of blessing for children, family life, that we have better family life, life itself, meaning health, and livelihood. Yet, at the same time, the principle, that's only the fruit, right? You eat the fruit of the tree, it's a one-time thing. But the principle, the tree, is forever creating, right? Because there will always be something emerging from it. That principle, as King David says in Tehillim and Psalms, mitzvahs, rechava mitzvahs lama'od. Your commandment, your mitzvah, God, your mitzvah, is very wide. So two questions here, the Alter Rebbe addresses. What does it mean, your mitzvah? What's your mitzvah? God has many mitzvahs. And what do you mean very wide? That's an unusual term. You could say very immense, very lofty, very great. What do you mean very wide? Right? And Mitzvahscha doesn't mean your one commandment. Mitzvah means your many commandments. So the reason why it's in singular term, your mitzvah, because ultimately God's mitzvah is that of being charitable, being compassionate, giving to those who don't have, like me, like you, like everything of creation. Creation has nothing of its own. It wasn't here beforehand, and now a benevolent God imbues creation with wonderful things. No, creation is only because God brings it into being. So God is all the time animating the worlds, giving life. Is he giving life because when you pay someone who works for you, you owe them the money. You're not being charitable. You're not being compassionate to pay someone who worked hard and deserves the money that's coming to them. Oh, compassionately, I'm giving you this money. No, it's deservedly. Compassion means it's not deservedly, yet you give. That's what compassion means. So deservedly, do we have life? No, but God gives it compassionately. What arouses that compassion to give us life is because we're compassionate. We're giving. So God gives. Now, the fruit that it bears, right, in this world today of, as we said, Bane Chaya Mezena Revicha, in family life, children, in health, and then livelihood. The principle is maintained. When is it maintained for? Well, a time when Messianic era, times of Mashiach, in the future, the time when the souls will return into a body. Tchias HaMeisim. When souls return to a body. It's interesting. Many people feel and intuitively that the soul is greater and the spiritual world is more lofty, and therefore this world is but a entryway into the spiritual world of the Garden of Eden, right? I'm going to heaven. But as we know, all of the great sages of Israel, Tanoim, Amoraim, the teachers of the Mishnah, of the Talmud, they're in Gan Eden, in the highest peak of Garden of Eden, the highest levels. And yet, they're eagerly anticipating to come back to this world, a soul within a body. Why? It's because his greatest manifestation of the light of God is in Gan Eden, in the Garden of Eden. It is only a ray of light that trickles down. It is only what we call Memalek Olamim. It is a light of God that fills them, fills the soul in such a way that they're tantalized. Absolutely. Great pleasure. It is so great the pleasure in Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, that it's even worth to go through Gehenna to be cleansed through hell, if you will. We call it Gehenna because hell, doesn't have a good connotation. Right. So Gehenna will use that term. To go and get cleansed in order to have the pleasure that the soul will comprehend, experience in Gan Eden, in the Garden of Eden. But yet, as lofty that is, that it is the Yud of the divine name of God, of the Tetragrammaton of God's name that animates that world, Chachma, the divine wisdom that animates the world of Gan Eden and brings great delight. Yet the light that will radiate in the times of Mashiach and the times of the Messianic era and the times of Tchias HaMetzim, when the souls will return into a body, doesn't come from the way God contracts himself in a way that it can invest the light within the soul that it's tantalized in the Garden of Eden, but it is Seviv Kol Almin. It is a light of God that is all-encompassing, infinite light of God, not contracted, that will be endless, that is so powerful that cannot vest itself and take sort of like vesting itself is like, the water that you put into the cup that is contained by the cup, and that's all that it can contain, nothing more. That's mamale, that's the way it fills the vessel. That's the way it is in the Garden of Eden. In times to come in Mashiach, there will be a light, a flow, divine energy that's beyond, that cannot vest itself within, yet we will experience it and have a connection to it. So much so that the souls are waiting to come back for that. That's the end of today's class, in the middle of a thought that we will continue tomorrow. Have any questions, any comments, any thoughts? Is that clear, everybody? We say hello to Michael in Germany. John is in North Carolina. Akoy is in Lima, Peru. Oops. I just lost. Sorry, I lost all the comments. We have Rachel in South Carolina. Sheer. Henya Tova. Davida and Liba in New York. I have new comments coming in, so I could. Bentley, Aaron. Aaron is with us. Joe in Washington. Livsha is with us. Aaron, you have a question, so please ask it again because I lost the feed, the earlier feed. Amy is with us in Colorado. Hindi, I think. Not sure. Alisa in Maryland. Welcome. Is the tree mentioned earlier that bears the fruit of our compassion actions? Is there anything required for us to plant that the tree is tree, or is it already present? Very good. Thank you, Aaron. So the tree is a metaphor over here to understand that in a tree, there's the fruit that it bears, and then there's the tree itself, which is the principle. The fruit itself, right? You have a one time with it, right? You eat the fruit, finished. The tree produces fruit over and over again, right? So that's why it's the principle as opposed to the fruit. So what we're explaining over here in that metaphor is that when we do the mitzvah of being charitable, an act of loving kindness with compassion, and that we elicit from on high divine compassion, that there's a divine flow that comes into us and into the world. We are creating two realities, the fruit and the principle. The fruit will reflect itself now in the present, right? Part of that fruit will be what your soul will be tantalized with in the Garden of Eden. But the principle is in the times of Mashiach. But we're going to have more on that tomorrow. But excellent. Thank you. Excellent question. Art is in Michigan, Victoria in BC. Jeff in Michigan. If our entire lives are dedicated to giving and doing God's mitzvahs, will God's full light radiate upon us sooner? It radiates right now. Oh, I know radiate's the right word. It encompasses us now. Radiate, are we going to experience it or not? That's a good, that's a different question. Well, we'll have to take that up in TRC on Thursday. All right. All right, folks. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine coming to you for Chabad Zich in Kadeshim, Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege